Switch it on when you're ready to go.
Good morning, everyone. I am the Reverend Ellen Quaadgras, serving in co-leadership here with Kirsten Hunter, our Director of Lifespan Ministries, and in shared ministry with all of you, a shared ministry which feels ever more important with every passing day. A shared ministry in which we get to tend to ourselves and to one another, in which we get to give and receive and belong and know that we each matter so much. We share this ministry of care for self and other that grounds us in something greater than ourselves or our fears, even as the world swirls around us, sometimes swirls right through us. Here we are online and in person on Father's Day. A sweet day, a meaningful day, a difficult day for some. Here we are against a heavy backdrop, just trying to live our lives, trying to be fathers or mothers or caregivers or just a friend to someone, trying to make our way with one another. Not simple in any era, let alone right now. We make our way in this time against this backdrop of distorted messages about so many things, but also about what it means to be a man, a father, what strength looks like, what power looks like, or how to wield it. Even if we don't buy what's being shown us, it's here. So today, against this background clamor of dominance and control, we pause to hear some stories about a different kind of strength that includes tenderness, a quiet kind of power that holds wisdom, about growth and learning and change that can happen when we open to it. I'm grateful to be leading today's service with Chris Kiper, our worship associate, with Jonny Peiffer, who is not only playing music today, but has written much of it himself and happens to be a father, as does Chris Kiper. We have Ben Abbott helping our folks at home be with us, and Jen Leyden, who manages so many details. Kirsten Hunter is offering our time for all ages, after which our youngest are invited to join religious education classes downstairs outside, but follow Jen DB out the door, and parents, just be sure you've signed them in. Yes. Yeah. After worship, we'll have coffee and conversation downstairs, outside. No, we're going to have it outside. It's a little chilly out there, but you can do it. We're New Englanders. And the question I invite you to reflect on with each other: what's your favorite way to feel like it's summer, even when the temperature is in the 50s? So you can talk to each other about that. I have a couple of announcements. And I invite you to check your order of service, which has them all. They are all wonderful indicators of things happening at this church. First, I want to share from Lauren Katz, part of the team that put the Pocket Garden Tour together. It was a success. There were over 75 volunteers, 30 bakers, 9 garden owners, several artists and musicians welcomed about 700 tour goers. Right? Yeah. What did we make, she asks? We made smiles, we made new friends, we made community connections, and around $17,000, which will go to the mission of this church. Volunteers, remember, you are welcome to a post-tour celebration today at 1 p.m. at 411 Middle Street, and also there are blooms in your order of service that were part of this, so be sure to take a look at that. I also want to mention that the youth group, their world-level premiere is happening tonight of their movie that they created with so much help and crafting and editing from Pip Clues. Shout out to her. And the youth group tonight will be at 5 o'clock, and they're going to have homemade pizza for us, too. So I hope you can come to that. There is a mural that a group of folks have been putting together, and for Pride, everyone is invited to paint that mural at Pride on Saturday the 21st, and they're looking for some donations, some last-minute donations for paying for that paint. It's in the Thursday email, those details of how to do that. And also, yeah, Pride. There's going to be a contingent for Pride that Saturday, and the details are in your order of service. And we have one more announcement, and then I'll come back here because I want to end with our land acknowledgement.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. My name is Sophia Barlock, and along with Jim Verschuren, Charlotte Ramsey, Kathy Wolf, Janice Wolak, Janet Pulaski, Dick and Betty Lates, and Elaine Buchesny. I serve as an overseer of the South Church Immigrant Support Fund, which is where our shared plate this month is going towards. So I just wanted to tell you a little bit about it. In 2013, the National UU Association issued a statement of conscience The statement, Immigration as a Moral Issue, called for repair and reform of a broken, and in many cases, a moral immigration system. It also called for action by UU members and congregants. 12 years later, we still have a system that is broken, often cruel, and fueled with lies such as equating immigrants and crime. The fund was established in 2020 to offer asylum seekers and other immigrants financial help with legal fees, housing, medical bills, bail, and more. More recently, we spearheaded the creation of a neighborhood support team for a Haitian immigrant, and now we are helping establish similar teams in the area. Along with our social justice associates, we've offered forums, sometimes with lunch, on immigration issues. This year, we investigated the possibility of providing sanctuary space at South Church. But considering the uncertainty of this political climate, we have decided to recommend against it at this time. Instead, we are working with the Seacoast Interfaith Sanctuary Coalition, or CISC, to build a rapid response network. This will provide a quick gathering of witnesses to ICE arrests. We'll keep you updated on those plans. In fact, there is a relevant notice in today's order of service. So, as you see, the work of the Immigrant Support Fund extends beyond finances. However, that does remain its core mission. So, during the offertory, we hope you each will give what you are able to during this month. It truly is a way to act on our faith in the larger community. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we begin, we acknowledge that we gather on land once stewarded by the Abenaki and Pennacook peoples. And our ancestors, spiritual or biological, came here seeking freedom or opportunity, but often brought harm, displacing people, breaking relationships, silencing wisdom. We name that truth not to shame, but to begin repair, because real strength includes honesty, and tenderness includes accountability. Today, as we reflect on all we've inherited and what we pass on, may we remember those who live in deep relationship with this land. And may we commit ourselves to listening, learning, and making room for justice and healing and wholeness. Please silence your cell phone if you have one. Now let us worship together.
When I was just a little girl, I asked my father, what will I be? Will I be pretty? Will I be rich? Here's what he said to me. Que sera? Whatever will be, the future's not ours to see.
Good morning. As we light our chalice here to bring us into a space of intention and togetherness, we invite people watching at home to light a candle or chalice of their own. These words are from Jean Wallstrom. In this small flame dwell the beacon light of lanterns guiding travelers home, the warmth of hearth fires tended through the generations, the transforming energy of furnaces, and the power and life of our sun. May these blessings, warmth and light and life-giving energy be kindled in each of us. Please rise in body or in spirit and join me in reciting the mission statement printed in your order of service. At South Church, we nurture spiritual growth through worship, learning, and community. We celebrate the worth and dignity of all people and inspire one another to act on our faith in the larger community. It's Father's Day, so let me get the formalities out of the way. Dad, if you're watching, I love you. I love you also if you're not watching. And to my kids, I just want to say, you're welcome. For me, being a father is about building a loving relationship with my children that will grow and last through our entire lives together. It's also about preparing my children for the future, equipping them with the skills and mindset that will help them navigate through life. My own father did this pretty well. Today, he and I are closer than ever, and he prepared me to operate and even flourish in the world. I think he naturally expected that the world of my adulthood would look similar to the one that he had experienced. Go to school, get a job, settle down, have kids. So it was natural for me, upon becoming a father, to prepare my children for a world that I had grown accustomed to. 30 years ago, when my dad was in his 40s, his day-to-day experience of life wasn't that different from the way mine is today. But here's the problem. 30 years from now, when my children are in their 40s, the world they inherit likely won't resemble the one we're living in today. The future is quite unknown, and I won't take time to list the overwhelming and imminent challenges that we all face ahead of us. So to simplify the problem, how do we prepare children for extreme and rapid change? Fatherhood has certainly changed me. As a young dad, the question I asked was, what do I want in life? As I've sat with the glaring potential that the world may shift in uncomfortable ways, the question became, what will my children need in life? One way I approach an uncertain future is framed around being sentimental or being adaptive. It's so tempting to put blinders on, to mask denial with nostalgic distraction, to yearn for the way that things have always been and assume they will always be the same. I find it takes a lot more energy, imagination, and courage to be adaptive. But this is what I believe my kids will need: to filter and scrutinize, to be nimble and flexible, to balance, to make decisions based on reality and also truth. When I get sentimental about how amazing my experience on earth has been, a stable climate, a healthy democracy, no world wars, no rogue AI, a robust economy, abundant food. I also recognize that things have been far from perfect. Attempting to teach my children how to be adaptive isn't just about how their future needs will be met. It's teaching them to look out for other people's needs as well. While the decades ahead offer cascading challenges, they can also offer surprising opportunities for the next generation, not only to embrace change, but to create change. No one on earth has ever been a father in 2026, and by no means do I have any of this figured out. But thankfully, we have a place like this to figure it out together. Please rise in body or in spirit for our opening hymn, Winds Be Still, number 83 in your gray hymnal.
Winds be still, storm clouds pass and silence come, peace grace this time with harmony. Fly, bird of hope, and shine, light of love, and in calm let all think tranquility. Bird fly high, lift our gaze toward distant view, help us to sense life's mystery. Fly high and far and lead us each to see how we move through the winds of eternity. Light shine in, illuminate our inward view, help us to see with clarity. Shine bright and true, so we may join our songs in new sounds that become full symphony.
If anyone would like to come forward for a time for all ages, you are welcome. Perry, you had such a short commute. Just slide right down. Look at this parade of love coming down the aisle. Cuteness. So, there are these words we say every Sunday morning at South Church. How many of you all know it by heart? At South Church, we nurture spiritual growth, right? And there's a sentence in those words that we say every Sunday, and it's one of my favorite things. We say, we inspire one another to act on our faith in the larger community. Do you ever notice feeling inspired? Raise your hand if you ever notice it. I see a lot of hands. I really appreciated what Chris was just saying in his opening words about the challenges of this time, that there's so many kind of hard problems that the world is facing, and being a kid growing up in this world is kind of perplexing because we hear grown-ups say that a lot, and being a grown-up in this world is kind of perplexing because we hear ourselves saying that a lot, and being in this world is definitely perplexing because there's no map for our jobs as parents, maybe for kids too. But inspiring each other and being inspired feels like a really good place to start. Because here's the thing, it's pretty magical what we all do together. And I want to use this weekend as an example. But actually, even before that, I want to shout out Sophie a little bit. I hope she doesn't mind. But she was standing up here, and I thought to myself, this person grew up in part here in this community and learned about immigration as a challenge in the world and decided that that mattered to her. She has made really distinct decisions for years now in her adolescence into her adulthood to work on that issue. And she's created relationships with people in here. And just before this service, we were talking about inspiration. And she was saying to me names of people in the immigration support group at South Church who inspire her and me, so much so that both of us admitted if either of us get a call from any of those folks asking something of us, our answer is yes, just yes, because they inspire us. And then I thought about this weekend, and I thought about all of the different ways that I was inspired by people of all different ages. I was inspired by how many people were outside this weekend. Did you notice? It was a rainy weekend, but there were people everywhere, and they were interacting with one another, and that alone is a sign of a healthy and thriving community, which makes us strong no matter what's ahead of us. And I was inspired by 75 volunteers who made the Pocket Garden Tour happen, and I thought to myself, wow, this weekend, with so much going on, 75 people in our church made time to go sit in gardens. And then I was inspired about all of the relationships that got strengthened by that sitting in the gardens. Because just sitting with someone for a couple hours can completely change your life. You can have a conversation that you carry out into the world. And then I was inspired by the rally that happened in Prescott Park, which was amazing, joyful, full of art, signs that were creative and funny and compelling, and people who were impassioned, and dads with kids on their shoulders, and moms with kids on their hips, and grandparents and grandchildren, and young adults speaking impassioned messages to people with a bullhorn, without even amplification, saying it as loud as they could, so as many people as possible could hear their words. And gosh, I thought, this is incredibly inspiring, and my heart swelled, and that feeling felt like food. It felt like nourishment. And then, at the end of the day, after seeing thousands of people in Portsmouth here for 2 different rallies, and Market Square Day in between, and so much hoopla, so much joy, so much passion and love and care and interconnection. And then I came back to my neighborhood. I happened to live on a street in Portsmouth called Cabot Street. And Cabot Street, on Market Square Day, every year has the sweetest little community gathering that you ever did see. They block off one section of the street. All the kids scooters and bikes because they can ride around in the street and not worry about cars. There were bubbles in the air, just dense for the whole time. There was music. There was a family marimba band. They just busted out with 5 different marimbas and played marimba music. It was amazing. They have 6 kids amongst them, grandchildren, children, one of whom was on the shoulder of the mom while she was playing marimba. The whole afternoon and evening was just this sweet little community gathering, and amongst those people were people I had seen at the march in the morning, at Market Square Day in the afternoon, people interconnecting and loving each other and being a part of a place where they live and giving their hearts and their time to it. And I just wanted to say today, watch for what inspires you and know that you inspire people. And know how much that matters, and keep doing it. Let's go play outside.
The offering is a time to reflect on the abundance of support and love that our church offers, recognizing the financial responsibility of operating this historic building and providing so many impactful programs and services. During the month of June, our collection will be shared with the Immigrant Support Fund. The ISF offers financial support for housing, food, and other basic needs while assisting in finding more permanent housing, employment, and other immigration-related services. Please give as you are able. The offering will now be gratefully received.
We give thanks for this precious day, for all gathered here and those far away, for this time we share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day.
I'd like to begin our time of prayer and meditation with a few snapshots. A Jewish friend of mine called me yesterday. Her sister lives in Tel Aviv. She's worried about her and so upset about what's happening in this place halfway across the world that used to have her whole heart. I'm thinking about a mentor of mine, born Iranian and American. I have no idea what this is like for her. She's also on my mind. The family of Melissa Hortman and her husband Mark are in my heart now too. And every public figure who now feels that much less secure. And all of that, of course, isn't all. At a team meeting just this week, someone mentioned finding a destructive, invasive species in her garden. It turns out it wasn't what she thought, but that fear of being invaded, the feeling of destructive threat that spawned the thought, that's real. But in the heavy clouds are also, as Chris had communicated with me earlier, there are also beams of light shining through. an inspiring rally to remember we're not alone. Brave words of young people there that inspire joy in the eyes of a child that can't be suppressed. These words keep coming to me from the poet Rabindranath Tagore. Let love melt into memory, pain into song. It's part of a memorial service prayer, but it speaks to me of any loss, the little deaths, the chapters that end, like loss of confidence in a future you had thought was sure, loss of a security you thought you'd always have. But endings also bring fresh light, and these words too speak of something opening. Let love melt into memory, pain into song. With those words, I invite us to gather our hearts and minds in a spirit of prayer or meditation. In this moment, here together, in this sanctuary of place and time, may we melt just a little. Let the world outside be what it is, the thunder, the lightning, the rain, the threat. Can we exhale anyway? In this space where generations breathed one breath, and then another, and then another, getting through, witnessing all they witnessed. Courage has been born in this place more than once. Strength to face this day, whatever its weight, whatever its heartbreak, whatever its possibility. Strength to be with whatever's real in your life now. Being a father, having a father, or not having one. Being raised by someone else who showed up for you, missing a father or grieving all that never was, wishing something were different with your father or your child or someone you're close to. Trying to live and hope and grieve and love and sing and dance and celebrate, because even when the sky is dark, we are fully alive beneath it. Now, each breath full, each moment expansive, each breath able to melt us into this moment with all it carries. May we hear its song, its love, its call. As the music begins, I invite you to meditate on these words, or if you feel moved to light a candle, a symbol of love's light, please feel free to do so. May all these wishes, moments, joys, hopes, sadnesses in the room right now be held in love and light. May it be so.
This poem is called Weather by George Bilgere. My father would lift me to the ceiling in his big hands and ask, "How's the weather up there?" And it was good, the weather of being in his hands, his breath of scotch and cigarettes, his face smiling from the world below. "Oh, Daddy," was the lullaby I sang, back down to him as he stood on earth. My great white-shirted father, home. From work, his gold wristwatch and wedding band gleaming. As he held me above him for as long as he could, before his strength failed. Down there in the world, I find myself standing in tonight, a little boy, looking down from his flight, below the ceiling, cradled in my hands, his eyes wide and already staring into the distance beyond the man, asking him again and again, "How's the weather up there?"
Fatherhood. It has almost an aura. Like the scotch and cigarettes of the poem we just heard, but different for each generation. For me and my dad, it would have been his aftershave, the worn wood and metal tools in his basement, his love of jazz. Thinking of it is like an echo of my childhood. Looking back, it's gotten faded and cloudy now. It's more of a feeling than a memory. My dad, not unlike the men of his generation, was a bit of an authoritarian. And I, like youngest children through the generations, came with a streak of anti-authoritarianism. You can see how this might have made things interesting from time to time for both of us. I developed a dozen different strategies to elude my parents' plans to get me to do what they thought I should. Outrageous things like learning to read, eating my vegetables, or cleaning my room. And they developed a dozen different strategies to get me to do it anyway. Suffice it to say that me and my dad, me and my parents, we didn't necessarily make it easy on each other. My dad changed and loosened up over the years. More playfulness emerged that I know was always there, but came with a mustache and a Camaro in his 40s and a new sailboat. I think they called that a midlife crisis back in the day. And when his grandkids were born, something changed again, loosened even more. I heard a story at his memorial service that involved a can of Ready Whip, a couple of grandkids about 20 feet away, and a graceful arc of said whipped cream caught by waiting mouths of two delighted little kids. Okay, so maybe it was 2 feet and not 20. The distance seemed to increase with each telling of the story, but you get the idea. Still, somehow, my dad had it in him to be both playful and maintain a certain gravitas he never lost. Those are a few snippets of my dad. That's who I think of when I think of fathers and when I think of Father's Day. We all have different memories, different experiences. Some wonderful and warm, some sad or disappointing. Some defined more by absence than by presence. Some that were hard growing up, and some that are still hard today. I was talking with a friend of mine who told me she didn't have the greatest father, so Father's Day for her is always hard. She told me she would try, growing up, to recreate him as the father she wanted. She never succeeded, of course. He was who he was. She tells me this with a matter-of-factness, but I can't help but think just how unfair that really is. On this Father's Day, I want to share with you a couple of vignettes from a book of stories of fathers called When I First Held You, edited by Brian Gresco. The book contains stories of happy fathers, regretful fathers, hopeful fathers, stories that open up a little window into the reality of this one of the biggest of human experiences and the generational experiences that shape it, a variety of snapshots of dads and kids and the journeys they go through with one another. Lev Grossman, for example, writes about his journey of change with his daughter, Lily. He had not only become a father, but decided he would stay home to be a primary caretaker, a change that he discovered did not come easy, given the modeling in his family. Grossman was a writer, self-admittedly not a very successful one. There was always something missing in his books, he wrote, but he was dedicated and he had a vision for himself. Before his daughter was born, he would spend Saturdays writing all day, every day. After she arrived, his output slowed to a trickle. Saturdays became about changing diapers, playing games, giving baths, making lunches, singing songs all day, every day. All things that had never sounded especially hard, he writes. He had always thought that parents were being a bit whiny about them, until he realized being a parent was harder than anyone had ever let on, and that people weren't whining nearly enough. 6 months in, things got to a breaking point. His expectations for his life crashed headlong into the day-to-day needs of his daughter. Who he thought he was supposed to be was not matching up with his everyday life, and he felt like he was sacrificing himself and his vocation for his daughter, and he started acting out. He became, in his own words, a bad person. He nursed his resentments. He ogled other women. He drank too much, wine with dinner, then wine without dinner, then binging with childless friends. Any man who has to take care of a baby while nursing a hangover on 2 hours of sleep deserves what he gets, he thought to himself, and he got plenty. It wasn't appealing, and it wasn't sustainable. Something had to give. And it did, and it was him. Something changed, shifted, something snapped, as he put it. But the snap was not all bad. He first saw it in his writing. His previous work began to look cold, dull, and lifeless, he writes. But 6 months in, half a year after the birth of his new daughter, he suddenly had a new idea that he labeled fresh, weird, and risky. He went with it, took a week off, and wound up with the most productive week he had ever had, feeling more proud of that story than anything he'd ever written. Something was afoot, he writes. I was waking up. Emotional pack ice was cracking and melting inside me. Feelings that I'd been avoiding for decades were thawing out and leaking through, both good and bad, joy, grief, anger, hope, longing. I was warming up, and buried things were surfacing. The cause of this cosmic disturbance? His daughter, Lily. I couldn't stay frozen around her, he writes. She wouldn't have it. I was raised to be a cool, distant person, but there is no point in trying to be cool or distant around a baby. Babies have no filters, and around Lily, I was losing track of my filters too. You cannot BS a baby. Lily set the bar high as far as honesty was concerned, and I was not going to disappoint her. For the first time in my life, Grossman continues, it felt like it mattered what I did and who I was. It was all well and good for me to mess around and write mediocre fiction when I was just some guy. But I wasn't just some guy anymore. I was now Lily's father. Anytime I wrote a sentence that was less than true, I could feel her looking over my shoulder and shaking her head slowly and sadly. Come on, Daddy. You know that's BS. Having a child didn't make me wise or mature, he writes, but it did make me realize just how unwise and immature I currently was. It was a start. There's a theme in many of the stories from these fathers in this book of transformation, often beginning with some loss of a sense of who they had been or thought they should be, loss of focus on what, like Chris said, they wanted to do with their life, and then upended by an experience that opens them to something new, different, unexpected, a shift in perspective, a waking up, sometimes literally waking up, as in this essay by Alexei Zenter in that same book. My daughter wants waffles, he writes. I know this, he continues, because it is 5:14 in the morning and she is in her bedroom yelling the word waffles over and over again. Each time she yells waffles, she says the word differently, as if she is making a meal out of the letters. She tries the word on for fit. Waffles, 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 waffle, waffles, waffles. It doesn't matter to her that it is 5:14 in the morning, or that her mother and I are trying to sleep, or that her older sister Zoe is also trying to sleep. The only thing that matters to my youngest daughter, Sabine, is this. She wants waffles. I do not want to be awake. I am awake. Yet Zenter realizes, even in the midst of his fatigue, in the midst of the exhaustion of being a dad, that he is also, as he puts it, waking up to the ways in which his life is no longer his own, waking up to a new way of looking at even stories that had wound their way through his family and his psyche since his own childhood, like the story of his father and his father's mistress. As he sorted out the last of his father's estate, he found a letter his father wrote to her, a letter in which he complains that Zenter and his brother were the anchors that prevented him from sailing for new waters. His father resented them, he wrote, because his boys would never let him be truly free. I already knew about the mistress, Zenter writes, but I am undone. Not by the complications of my father's love life, or even the resentment against his children, including me, but rather by the knowledge that the tie binding him to us was strong enough that he could not break it. I am fully awake to the understanding that there is at least one thing I have in common with my father, he writes. It is the knowledge that I, too, am tethered to my children. I, too, am anchored. Zenter writes of his moments as a dad, the sweet moments when one of his girls will come down in the morning clutching a blanket, leaning against him with no thought that he could be anything ever but a solid presence in her life. Times they leapt from the stairs and ledges and chairs and playground structures knowing he would be there to catch them. And he writes of his hard moments as a dad, raised voices, stompings upstairs, slammed doors, and yelled accusations, warnings, and lectures over the same thing it always was, coats on the floor instead of the hook, a door left open for dogs to run outside, daily coaxing of homework and piano lessons. And then a new day with apologies, hugs, and hopes that scars will fade. There are moments, he writes, when he looks at one of his girls and feels physical pain, an actual ache that travels from the base of his neck through his chest at just how much he loves them. And there are moments, he writes, when he understands why his father wrote that letter. But he concludes this way. He and his brother may well have been anchors, leaving their father with the feeling that his head was below water. And Zenter's girls to him may well be anchors too. But the difference between Zenter's father and himself is this. There is a joy to breathing underwater, a freedom, you might say, that his father never understood. I want to end coming back to my own relationship with my father, the ups and downs and challenges that we experienced, the sweet fun times, as well as the misunderstandings or missed understandings. I suspect there are ways I perplexed my father, and I know there are ways I did not always understand where he was coming from. So I feel lucky that the last September of his life, he and I got to sit out on the patio at my parents' house, an unusually warm, unusually beautiful September week. I've shared about this moment here before, but every time I come back to it, it shows me something new. My dad and I had spent the day making some minor repairs around the house, meaning he did the repairs and I watched. But that afternoon, we were just sitting on the patio with lots of space, just sitting together, which was something we really never did. My dad asked me about my plans for my career, for my life, really, he was asking. And I shared with him some thoughts I had and some hopes and some uncertainties. He seemed to understand something about the moment I was in between, in midair. I had just finished seminary, not sure how things would go, didn't know where I would land. I was anxious and unsettled. Later, he would express that some of the hardest things about dying was knowing he'd never get to see just how it all turned out. He didn't say much that day, though. He didn't say much, but my gravitas-filled father, whose presence carried so much strength, as we sat both contemplating this uncertain moment I was in, perhaps realizing both that he would not be there, however it turned out. In that moment, he got silent, and I looked over, and I saw that he was holding back his tears. So I got silent too and felt my tears well up, and we sat together for I don't know how long. But this is the memory I have that heals me every time. Suddenly seeing, kind of melting into the moment, into the unknown of it. He didn't tell me what to do. He didn't tell me it would be fine. Instead, I felt him in it with me. And so we sat. And it was his tenderness that gave me strength, and still does to this day. Fathers and their children, children and our fathers, it's quite a journey. Hallmark may try to simplify, but may we find space to hold it all. Whatever your experience, in its wide complexity, in its sadness, in its sometimes so elusive grace. On this Father's Day, may we pause to notice, may we find healing for whatever has not yet healed. recognize the joy that may be there, and may we experience the ever unfolding wisdom that all our journeys have to offer us. May it be so. Amen. Let us join together in our closing hymn, number 295.
Sing out praises for the journey, pilgrims we who carry on, searchers in the soul's deep yearnings, like our forebears in their time. We seek out the Spirit's wholeness in the endless human quest. Look inside your souls, the kindling of the hearth fire pilgrims new. Find the Spirit always restless, find it in each mind and heart. Touch and hold that ancient yearning, kindling for a newfound truth. Stand we now upon the threshold, facing futures yet unknown. Hearth behind us, wayside hostel, built by those who knew wild roads. Guard we ere their sacred embers, carried in our minds and hearts.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts and share with the world until we are together again.
May we each thaw toward something precious in our own lives as we let ourselves be tethered to what matters most to us. May we find the joy of breathing underwater and find healing for whatever remains unhealed. May we let pain melt into song and love into this moment, so that we may find fresh tenderness and new strength for this day and for each day of our unfolding future as it comes. May it be so. Amen.